inspiration, motivation, and information to help you live your best life. I'm your host, Celena, aka Sunshine, and each week we'll dive into conversations with guests who share their testimonies, insights, and advice. We'll explore topics that uplift, encourage, and empower you to be the best version of yourself you can be. So tune in and let's have some fun while we explore all that life has to offer. Keep it smiling, sunshine, and let's go. Hey, sunshine. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Celena. I'm your smiling host, Sunshine. If this is your first time, we want to welcome you. We come over here and we go live pretty much weekly, sharing testimonies, sharing businesses, authors, just highlighting other people and what they are producing, because we produce over here. We're not just being busy just to be busy. So thank you if this is your first time, and welcome back if you have continued to follow Conversation with Celena and support Conversation with Celena. We love you. So I want to start out with, again, something happened with Instagram. So I'm not live on Instagram today, but I will work that out. So if you happen to see me go live just randomly, it's because I'm trying to work out the kinks with Instagram. But we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Yes, I was twitching trying to say that. So listen, without further ado, I want to introduce to you today's guest. We want to support her. And if you know anybody that can benefit from the information that she's about to share, please share that with them. So today's guest is Miss Therise Edwards. She is passionate about lifelong education. Isn't that awesome? We should always try to learn something every day. Okay, so she founded Teshley Solutions to offer families information and services to help advance their children's success. As a single parent, she enrolled her daughter in public and private schools. Homeschool was also incorporated in their learning journey. Ms. Edwards' daughter graduated with a master's degree in special education, and at the age of 22, without any debt. Just in case you didn't hear me, let me say that again. Without any debt, no loans, no paybacks, nothing. I cannot wait to hear this. Ms. Edwards is a former coordinator of volunteers and community outreach, and she is currently the co-chair of the New Jersey Civic Information Consortium. She's going to have to say that one for me. Consortium. All right, well, we're going to just go on. I guess I need to go back to school because I'm struggling today. And she has over 2 decades of experience overseeing a volunteer tutoring program. So without further ado, welcome y'all to the stage, Miss Therise Edwards. Hey, lady.
Good morning, Celena. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me on. And I look forward to our conversation and sharing with your audience. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is. It is going to be fun. Let's see. So I got over there and was struggling. So what was the word? I know it. It won't come off my tongue.
It's consortium, and I understand it happens.
And I still can't get it out. Consortium. There's some words that's just rough, girl. I'm gonna have to take a tutoring class with you to help me get through some of these words. But I used to be embarrassed, but I'm no longer embarrassed whenever I do get caught up or stuck on a word, because I feel like we all do.
Everyone does that. Everyone has some word. My mother is a very intelligent person, but if her life depended on saying the capital of Ethiopia, I never would have been born. She cannot say Addis Ababa. She just can't do it.
What is it?
Addis Ababa.
Addis Ababa.
Will not. It has hung her up her entire life.
Did it come out? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. One that catches me up, I always feel like when I'm trying to say pure, that southern accent just takes over, or electricity. That's another one that just didn't seem like, it always seemed like it just didn't sound right. And people would tease me about electricity. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I don't know what it is. So I know I can speak. So thank you very much for the confirmation. All right. So we're going to get this started and I'm going to hop off to try to figure out what is going on Instagram if I can. But while I do that, I just want you to share a little bit about yourself. I know I read some of your bio, but if you would share a little bit about yourself, that way we can get to know Miss Teresa a little bit better.
Okay. Well, let me just say the reason why I started the business, there were a couple of things that went on. There was always an idea in the back of my head, as Selena shared with you. My daughter experienced a wealth of education options. I She started in a private school. She did both nursery school and kindergarten at a private school. Then she was in public school for 8 years. And then the last 4 years, she was primarily homeschooled, although she did attend the community college in the county, in addition to the homeschooling. So I'm very open-minded when it comes to education, and I know that that path is the opposite of what people usually do. They usually, if they're going to homeschool, they usually do it in the beginning, and then transfer to a traditional brick and mortar. But we were both breech births, so we have a different worldview. And her last years, I was also, as Selena mentioned, the coordinator of volunteers and community outreach for the local school district. That combined with, at that time, about a decade and a half of experience as a tutor for a volunteer tutoring program, a free tutoring program that we have here in my town. But it services not just my town; it services the surrounding communities and even um, in New York City. I had observed that there were some unrealistic expectations about schools, because my philosophy is schools cannot do it all. And they need support from the community, they need support from the parents. It needs to be a full on community effort. And things being what they were at that time in 2015, I ended up being riffed from my position. Just in case you don't know what that is, it's reduction in force. Um, so yeah, having been laid off, I had to make a decision about, well, what is it I want to do with the rest of my life. And I said, well, maybe this is a good time to take all of my experience, both in a school system and from seeing students and families from so many different areas. As I said, the tutoring program doesn't just serve my local community, it serves, we sometimes had families that would come from as much as 20 or 40 miles away. And part of that is because it's free. And we are one of the few towns that not only do we have the tutoring program that I participate in, we had two other free tutoring programs in town. So my town is kind of unique in that, but yeah, because there's a total dearth of free tutoring programs. You can always find Huntington and Kumon, and I'm not against those programs. I think they're fine. It's just that I know not everyone can afford them. So, using all of that experience, I decided to put together services that could support students and their families, as well as providing free basic information and guidance, which is done on the blog. You can find it at Teshley.com. That's Teshley.com. There you will find K through 12 learning resources that cover every subject, in addition to some supplemental things. There's access to virtual tours for museums, zoos, aquariums. That was one of the few benefits that came out of the pandemic, is that at that time those places decided to make their content free to people, and once the pandemic subsided, they decided to leave it there. So that is a great option for people, because I say if you can't get to the museum, let the museum come to you. And so you can do that from the comfort of your own home. I see you're back, Celena. Thank you, because I was having trouble just rambling on there.
And it's really easy to talk about yourself and what you do because you're passionate about it. So, I just wanted you to give us some backstory of how you got started, what motivated you, and just part of the journey, because I think we get so discouraged sometimes in the journey that we don't find the joy in the journey. And homeschooling and finances and all of those things can be so stressful, and if you don't know where to start and you don't know how to do it, sometimes you just throw your hands up. And so you're here to help someone else navigate through that. So, like, what would your opinion or advice be to someone who is going through that? How do you get started?
Well, just let me say, it's funny that you mentioned journey, because that's one of my taglines is education is a journey. Let's take it together. Um,
Okay.
because, yeah, no, it really is a journey. And like many journeys, you can take many paths. So,
Mhm.
and that's again what I did with my daughter. She did homeschooling, she did public school, private school. We did everything but the local charter school. And so I'm not close-minded when it comes, because I only had one child. If I'd had more than one, they may have taken a different path, because what works for one child isn't
Does not work.
necessarily
Right.
going to work for
Correct.
another.
Hmm.
You may have a child that excels at science and math but struggles with writing,
Hmm.
and then your other child will be prolific at writing, and math and science pose a great challenge to them. So, um, yeah, there isn't. I tell people, never look for absolute value outside the realm of mathematics, because you're not going to find it.
Yeah,
So that
and you do have to try different things because, like you said, what works for one doesn't work for all. Nothing is just straight cookie cutter. There's variations to whatever it is that you do, but having someone that's trailblazing, first of all, because you make mistakes, you learn from the mistakes, and even though you share it with someone else, it doesn't mean that it's error proof. I'm just giving you the guidelines, the basis of what I did and what works for me. And then they can go and say, well, I don't want to necessarily try that because I know it didn't work for Miss Teresa, so I'm going to do this. And that's the journey. That's part of the journey, and that's part of the learning, because you learn every single day. If you're not making mistakes, that means you're not doing anything.
Right, exactly. That means you are stuck. You are in the same place. You're not moving. You're not moving forward. And yeah, there's a lot of you can learn lessons from your mistakes. You can learn lessons from other people's mistakes.
Yes.
I am not in any way, shape, form, or fashion a football fan, but I am surrounded by football fans. I even tease my daughter that she went over to the dark side, and she's a big Star Wars fan, so that. But you pick little things up, and little by little, I said, because I had done I forgot to mention, I also have a YouTube channel that is under the name of Education Unpacked. And one, I did a blog post, and then I also did on the Teshley Solutions website, and then I also did a video talking about, if you have a child who's struggling with math, but they're a sports fan, try to use that to help them with their math, because particular football lends itself really well to this, because the scoring is so all over the place. You've got the 6 points, you've got the extra point, you've got the field goal, you've got, what is it, the safety. That's the one that's 2 points. There's something else that's 2 points, and I don't remember what it is. So you can use that. If your team's behind, then ask your child, okay, so how can they come back? What can they do to win this game? And it's something that they're already connected to, and so it's not as burdensome. It's not. I'm sitting down with paper and pencil, or in some computer program like IXL or something, just doing math drills. If they're a fan of football, basketball, hockey, whatever it is, they can do that. But then, because I get information by osmosis, and I should say I'm surrounded by Giants fans. That should be known, and some people will understand. So there was a whole big thing last year with the New York Giants and their episode of off-season Hard Knocks, where the general manager did not come off looking very well. And so I did a video, and I have to do a follow-up now that the draft is over, about life lessons from the NFL, because again, the general manager made some very public statements and decisions that went really, really badly.
Oh,
Really,
Lord.
really badly for
Hopefully he's learning from his mistakes.
well, it seems, and that's the reason I said I was going to wait until after the draft. It seems that this time, rather than thinking he was the smartest person in the room, he might have actually listened to a couple of people this time, and made some better decisions than he did that previous draft, because the previous draft was a disaster. They chose to hang on to their quarterback, who had never been very good. The one decent year he had was just decent. He didn't light the world on fire. It was just that the year was not as terrible as the ones that had preceded it.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
they
this
gave up.
draft got a lot of exposure. I don't think I saw as much about a draft ever other than this year. It's all on my news feed, and we're a soccer family. So, there is power in social media, because if you get yourself out there, you could be popping up on people's timelines. And I feel like when people get to know you and you are your authentic self, even if you're growing, because we're always evolving, we're always learning and doing more. But the people that are with you and going along that journey, that's been turned into my one of my taglines, find joy in the journey, or there is joy in the journey. But um getting them to go along with this journey, I mean, that's so important. That's why I told you, like, I don't have any questions. We're just gonna have a conversation, and we're just gonna let it flow. If it goes about football, if it goes about learning math by introducing it to your children, that could be helpful. And that's with anything, basketball, whatever they enjoy. You put something that the children enjoy into that curriculum, and it's gonna their eyes are gonna light up. Their brain is gonna just like be like, "Oh, wait a minute, I love this." If you're able to incorporate it, so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's making connections, and again, it's your passion may not be their passion, but again, I've tutored for years, and so yeah, over the years, even though I'm not um, a huge sports fan, and my sport was tennis. Um, I would talk about, if one of my students was a huge basketball fan, then I would use basketball. If it was football, I would use football. Yeah. So you take those things, and then also there are those daily things that come into play, because a lot of people, and this is one of the things I say, never ever do. If you are not brilliant at math, that's okay, but don't be proud of it in front of your child. Don't pass that along, because we know that children pick these things up.
They do. And they'll have a mental block just because you said that it's hard, or you said that you struggle with it. And you're correct. I mean, even when people try to tell you about a class that you're taking, if they say, "Oh, Miss So and so, Miss Teresa, she is hard," you go into that classroom automatically with that at the forefront of your mind. Miss Teresa hard. This is gonna be a hard class. So you're right about that. Be careful what you say.
Yeah, don't plant those seeds, just find little ways. And people sometimes think they're really bad at math. What it is that they may not have been exposed to, or even if they took it to school, they may not have done well at high level math. But we use math in everyday life all the time. When we're going to visit someone for a dinner or a party or something, We calculate how long it's going to take to get there based on the distance from the house. And if we know the traffic conditions or if it's raining or snowing, you factor that in all the time. It is math. It may not be calculus, but we use math every day. You use it in cooking. If you have a recipe for 6 people, but you're having 14 over, then you've got to do those adjustments. And most people do it without thinking about it, but they may still consider themselves not good at math, even though they just worked this out in their head without using paper and pencil. So, the same way we teach children to believe in themselves, adults need to believe in themselves a little bit more.
Yes. And what I was going to say, even though you may not have gotten it in high school, it's almost like it took me until I got to college for what my high school algebra teacher was trying to explain. I'm like, oh, but she was the best algebra teacher. She took her time. It just wasn't clicking with me. And so it could be you just need a refresher or you need a different instructor because people explain things differently. And she was one of them that was an amazing math teacher. But some of that stuff I did not get until college. So again, you just keep trying. You find different ways to learn. You find different people that are willing to tutor or teach, and you'll be amazed at it's gonna click. You just have to try. Like it's repetition, especially in math, because you come out with an answer. Like 2 plus 2 can't be maybe 5, maybe 15. Like 2 plus 2 is what it is. So that's the good thing about math.
Yeah, that is so true. And yeah, um, I've seen and I've experienced on a personal level. Yeah, I had an accounting class in college that I was absolutely dreading. It was a required class, and I remember emailing, writing the teacher and explain, and he gave the most succinct answers, responses to what we say. He said, "I understand a lot of people feel this way, but just remember this." And I said, "Oh my gosh, why didn't anyone ever say this to me?" Because I knew on a outside level, I'd heard the terms debits and credits, but the way people explained it, it made no sense to me. It just said, remember left and right. I was like, oh, why didn't anyone ever say that before?
Mhm.
And I sailed through the class. I ended up getting an A, just from that simple little phrase of just making it. Don't get hung up on the words. Just remember where
Left,
everything
right.
goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have, even in tutoring, sometimes I will say to someone, I say, you know what, I think this student might do better with you than with me. It's he's a bright kid, he's doing well, you know, he has the potential, but I'm not sure I'm the one to get him there. And sometimes, yeah, just switching off tutors can make a difference. And my whole thing is that with the students who come to us, I want them to leave better than when they came, more confident, more capable. And if I'm not the one who can get them there, that's okay. Because I have worked with some students that some other people have said, oh, this child can't be worked with. Okay, I say, okay, let me try. So yeah, there's someone for everyone. I'm not for everyone. And I get that. So yeah, I will ask someone else to try with the student.
Hmm. And that's what you have to do. And that's what we're talking about. Like, I know I learned from experience as well. Like, you just can't get certain things from certain people. I had one instructor that just would read straight out the book. I didn't need to, I know how to read, I even know how to comprehend some things, but this was like maybe statistics or something that I know I needed an instructor instructing me on what to do. And I was just like, I can't believe you're just reading from the book. So you do have to try different things. And so I'm thankful that you were able to get your daughter out of school at a young age debt free. I had to say that about 3 times. Like, you don't hear what I said? Debt free, no loans, no IOUs, none of that. Like that, I wish
I,
I had that testimony. Because what?
Well, let me just give the full story behind that, because I don't want people, and I tell people, I said, I can never guarantee you the same of results. Some of it was planning, and I did have, yeah, I was a single parent, but I did have some money put away for her from when her father passed away. But it what seemed like a decent sum of money at that time, by the time she was ready to graduate high school, what kind of looked like this then looked like
Mhm. Mhm.
it was amazing what happened in 13 years. It was, I was like, oh my. But initially, her plan was to major in architecture, and which was fine. Because I'm not one of those parents that is going to choose the path for my child. I let her find her own way. My only concern was that she had an HGTV idea of what architecture was. And
Oh.
I was like, I'm not sure she really understands this. So I searched, and I found a program uh, through Googling and researching, and I will give them a big plug here because I adore this program. It's a nationwide program. It's called the ACE Mentor Program, which stands for Architecture, Construction, and Engineering. And what they do is they get working professionals to serve as mentors, and there are teams of high school students that come in and learn for them. They have a project that they decide on what project they're going to do, and then at the end of the year, depending, different states, different groups do it a different way, but there's usually a culminating presentation. Now, even though we live in New Jersey, my daughter did the program in New York because it was actually easier for her to get to. Um, their culminating presentation was before a panel, and one of the panel members was Bloomberg was mayor at the time, so it was the person who was in charge of the design and construction for the entire city of New York. And just let me say, the fact that they were high school students made no difference to this panel. They treated them as though they were working professionals that had hired them to do a project. And so if there were flaws in the design, they did not hold back in letting them know.
So what did she decide?
Well, no, it was fine. It wasn't that um that chose her that made that caused her to choose a different path, because in her mind she wanted to do a lot of designing of schools and things like that. But what it was, she volunteered at the same tutoring program that I did, and I saw it happening before she did. She just developed a passion for it, for teaching. It wasn't that she got turned off by architecture. It was just working with the students, particularly um, students that had challenges, that had special needs, and she worked with them really, really well, and she would see the progress. And as a matter of fact, one of my colleagues and I were standing at the back of the room one day, and we just looked at each other and said, yeah, the world's going to be missing an architect. This isn't going to happen. I never said that to her, though. I didn't let her know that. But
Another
you
HGTV extraordinaire we're not gonna see on HGTV.
Yeah, no. So that was really it. It wasn't, but no, she loved her time with the ACE, and she still speaks very, very highly of it. And as I said, I continued to follow them through the years. And this is, when I talk about community, I just don't mean your local community, the broader community. This program was started by a gentleman who sadly passed away last year or the year before. His name was Charlie Thornton, and very successful. And he said he loved his profession. He loved everything about his profession except for one thing. He said when he started, it was the club of little old white men. And now that he had progressed in it for a number of years, it was still that way. And he didn't like that.
Mhm.
So he started this program to bring more women and people of color into into the profession, because he that was a passion of his. And so, as I said, it's pretty much, I think they're in 38, 40 states, maybe more right now. And so it is, as I said, each one is done a little bit different, but
And what's
the
the name
in
of that one again?
it's the ACE mentor
Oh,
program.
okay. That one is ACE as well. Okay, I thought.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's the one that started the ACE mentor program.
Okay.
And it is just, I wish other people in other industries would do something similar, because there just isn't anything like that hands on experience, that rolling your sleeves up and just diving in and
Mhm.
actually doing it. And yeah, so it is a phenomenal program, and as I said, I wish other industries would follow this model, because it's not difficult. It's not difficult to replicate, and it provides so much benefit,
It
not
sounds.
only to the students but to the profession,
Mhm.
because you have a pipeline
Mhm.
coming in to fill the spots left by those that are going out. So it's not just altruistic, it's also practical.
Mhm. And it helps the parent that's paying. If you're the parent that's paying, because not all parents pay, it helps you because these kids will get in school and start out in nursing 2 years into 2 years into nursing. Oh, I think I want to go be a dental hygienist. Then it's like, oh no, I think I want to be a teacher. So if you can do a program like that, because I think they try to start that maybe in high school where you take a test, but after you take that test and it says based on this is what you're doing better in and we believe that you would excel in, then you move on to that program to see if once you're doing hands on, if it's still what you want to do, like plumbing, like
Right.
because I know that's not a path that I would do well in.
Yeah, no, it that is yeah, that is something, and it's unfortunate that because of funding and so many other things, and I'm terrified about what's going to happen in the coming years and days in terms of education. But yeah, our local high school used to have a lot of those programs, plumbing, electric, but they all fell by the wayside with budget cuts. And yeah, it is it is an expensive proposition to change your major, halfway
Yes.
through. And so, with the ACE Mentor program, it is a completely free program
Oh,
that
that's awesome.
that they participate in.
Hmm.
Uh, and so yeah, it is that firsthand experience. And sometimes it may be that someone started off wanting to be an engineer and then decides, no, I think I'd rather do architecture, or vice versa, or they just decide they don't want to do it after all. And the one thing another thing that I really like about the program, they've always been very it's supportive of allowing those who have already expressed that they're probably not going to go into the profession, but still wanting to participate, because sometimes, how teenagers are, they don't like to do things alone. So they bring a buddy with them, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, because you never know. Maybe, oh, I've been sitting here for 10 months. I think I am kind of interested in this. Maybe I will do it. So they leave it open. They let the
That's
young
great. That's
people
great.
experience it, and it's a pretty phenomenal program.
It sounds like it. So thank you for sharing and giving them that plug because this will be beneficial for anyone who has a child that's interested in going to any of those fields because everything is not going to be a 4, 6, 8 year degree. Some people will get a trade and they will do very well in that, in that trade, or go get a trucking license or a CDL. You just never know what your path is going to be, but being able to finance it and learn, be a lifelong learner, I think this is great what you're doing. So tell us about like how to get in touch with you and the services that you offer.
You can go to the website, which I will say right now, because there are about to be such extreme changes in education, both from federal funding or lack thereof, and then the state aspect of it. I it's going to undergo some significant changes in the coming weeks, but certain things will remain the same, like the K through 12 learning resources that I was telling the audience about when you stepped away. That will be there. The only thing that will happen to that is that it will get expanded. So it is just simply going to Teshley.com. I made it easy. I dropped the solutions. So it is just Teshley.com that they can go to, and so they can look. One of the things that I did starting 3 years ago was I was aware, and this is where families need to understand how things work and how things happen. When the FAFSA Simplification Act was passed in 2020, the two places that I saw it publicized was Business Insider and Forbes. Most people don't read Business Insider or Forbes, and therefore a lot of people were unaware of what was happening with federal student aid. Now, I will say a lot of the changes that they made were excellent and long overdue. They dramatically dropped the number of questions, and many things were much better. One of the major issues with it, though, was up until that point, and it was phased in over a 2-3 year period. One of the major issues is that there had always been what was, for lack of a better term, known as the multi-student discount. So if you had two students enrolled at the same time, you got a bit of a break on your tuition from whichever institution they were attending, whether it was the same institution or two different institutions. With the 2020 FAFSA Simplification Act, that was eliminated, which for those families that were on a tight budget was going to be a major, major issue. So I alerted people, from the tutoring program that I worked with. I sometimes stay in touch with some of the families, and one of those families had a set of triplets that were in college at that time. So this was going to significantly impact them. So she had a heads up on it. She had been notified 2 years ahead. A lot of people were still unaware. I did a webinar, a free webinar with a financial expert about these changes and how it was going to impact. So we did our best to alert people as best we could. Unfortunately, we don't have the audience of the New York Times or Fox News or anything like that. So a lot of people got caught flat-footed. Worse than that was because it was a completely new calculation and everything else as to how financial aid was awarded. They needed a new system. And the Department of Education did a terrible job of working out the kinks. So the entire system crashed when they finally made it available. The people I work with, the people that read, they knew that that was coming. That was not the overwhelming majority of people in the country. So they were caught off guard, and this went on for far too long. It caused universities to have to extend the deadline for students to make a decision. It was a hot mess, for lack of a better term. But these are the kinds of things that are important for people to know. So that's, even though it's certainly not a lucrative aspect for my business, it is the kind of information that I do share with people. Now there's a whole nother, in the upcoming budget, the 2026, there's a whole nother set of proposals which have not been solidified.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to be good for the average family. Just let's put it that way.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of cuts that's going on. And if you are, like you said, the average family, it's just not going to be good. I'm so glad that my oldest one is finished with college, and then the one coming up, he's almost finished with what he's doing right now. I don't know what the future looks like for him, but it is unfortunate because how, if you don't have the funding, if you've cut all these programs and funding, what are we supposed to do exactly?
Well, I try not to be too political, but I will say it is part and parcel of the bigger picture. And if you see a lot of things that have been put in place, it is a rollback to the way things used to be many, many years ago. And that is the overarching end goal of the program. I will say, though, timing is everything, and if this is going to be happen, if this is going to happen, it is going to be thrust forward because I'm a firm believer in education, but I do understand there are a lot of reasons why a high school graduate may choose not to attend college, at least not right away. And not all of them are financial. A lot of them are, but not all of those reasons are necessarily financial.
Mhm.
Back when I graduated high school, shortly after the dinosaurs roamed the earth, it was it was possible for you to graduate high school, start in a company in an entry level position, and
Mhm.
then work your way up
Yes. Hmm.
to a manager, a VP, or whatever.
You're
And
right.
and then little by little, and if you think about this, if you follow the progression of events, college degrees started to become mandatory. And when college degrees started to become mandatory, the cost of college started going up, and it was out of this is none of this happens by accident. So with the changes that are happening now, where in all probability, at least not straight out of high school, less people will be attending college. At the same time, there is a movement in the business world to revert to skills based hiring,
Hmm.
where it is less because let's be honest, there are people who have attended a college or a university, sometimes an Ivy League,
Hmm.
left with a degree, and learned next to nothing. So companies have found that they've hired these people with their sometimes multiple degrees. They'll have a bachelor's and an MBA or whatever, and then they get in and they are completely incapable of performing the tasks for which they were, the duties for which they were hired. So I will not say it is across the board because, of course, it isn't. But this is something that has been happening for a few years now, a return to skills based hiring where um, you are given the opportunity to prove yourself and move up, even though you may not possess a college degree.
Well, that's where the hands-on comes in into play, because just because you read it in a book doesn't mean that you can walk in and do it. And I know they're trying to have well-rounded individuals, graduate and go into society, but some of those classes are just like, what am I taking this for again? And it's to make this big huge program, but to make it where they get more money, because some of these things, they're really irrelevant, to be honest. Like some of the courses that you have to take in your curriculum, it's a waste. And it's away from, I guess that's why a master's is called a master's, because it's very specific when you get into those programs. But when you're getting your associates and your bachelors, Like some of the classes, I personally feel like I could have done without, because you have people in the working world who don't have the emotional intelligence that they need, who don't know how to write a check. Like some of the basic things that they need, they've gotten all the way up here and be like, what you talking about? So I feel like college should also include things that are real life and relevant, not just something that you're not going to really use.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
me.
agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, I know there's some courses that seem like fluff courses, but I go back to the early days of college and education, and particularly, well, in this country, but in some other countries too. Daughters of wealthy men would often attend college, and they had no reasonable expectation of holding a job, let alone having a career.
Mhm.
But the reason behind that was whomever they were going to marry didn't want a dullard in the house, somebody who didn't know anything. And I think you just never know when, it may not be something you use in your everyday life, but those little pieces of information, um, can, if you allow them to, can help you think about things a different way, and it may help you connect with someone else later in life. Again, probably not going to be used every day, but might come in handy at some point. My concern right now, in both terms of high school and college, for those that are graduating, is I feel that they're not educated on how to obtain a job. They don't know, they don't fully understand their duties and responsibilities as a prospective employee. They have some really unrealistic expectations, but then they also don't know the rights and responsibilities of employers, because certainly not on the federal level, but on the state and local level, there have been a lot of protections put in for employees. And I don't think these young people know that. Again, whether they're leaving high school and going straight to the workforce, or if they're going to college and going to the workforce, they just don't understand uh, the things that companies can and cannot do, even in the hiring process. Never mind once they actually are gainfully employed. But
Mhm.
there are certain things that companies aren't even supposed to do now in the hiring, during the hiring and interviewing process. And as far as I see, there's little education about that, that's happening. And that's the reason I'm saying schools really can't do it all. And living in the age of the internet, which of course can be a hotbed of vitriol, but if you utilize it the right way, I really think the internet is the great equalizer, because there's just an
Just
abundance
yeah.
of good information
Mhm.
that isn't from anyone's perspective, that isn't from left, right, Republican, Democrat. It's just information. It just is what it is.
Mhm.
It's A, B, C, and D. It's not subject to interpretation. It just is what it is. And that's, as I said, we all know social media, the internet, news sites, left, right, liberal, independent, they can be horrible. And I think that's one of the things that families need to do, is really teach their children how to extract the pertinent information from an article or an opinion piece, and just throw the rest away. Even if you agree with it, all you need is the information. You just need the hard data. And someone's opinion is someone's opinion. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but it's a question of how it's going to benefit you in your life.
Right. And not get so wrapped up in your emotions and anger because this person feels and thinks and believes differently than you. like if we were all just a little bit more open-minded. And I really hate to see how many people have fallen out because something on social media, something their family, something their coworker said or did that they didn't agree with. Like, I don't think I've ever seen this much where people are falling out. And it's over somebody that don't even know their name. You know,
Yeah.
they don't even know who you are, and you're upset. This lady told me last night that her son came home and said that two of his friends had gotten into a real fight because one said he really liked this new game that came out. The other one said that he didn't like the game. And the one that liked it got so angry at the one who said, I didn't like it. Like, I don't like it, that they got into a fight. And it's just, and I keep hearing people tell me, like, I don't even talk to my family anymore. I don't talk to, this one anymore because of their beliefs. And that is just, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Like, we all have an opinion and we know what opinions are.
Yeah, and well, not only that, I've listened to people, whether they're voting on a national level or a local level, and speak about, well, I disagree with this, this candidate on this, and okay, but how much do you agree? Well, yeah, we agree on that stuff and that stuff and that stuff. So it's one thing that's. I said, listen, there are issues, there are subjects that I have arguments with myself over because part of me feels this way and part of me feels this way, and I haven't quite found which is the greater of the two. So I said, if you're looking for a candidate that you agree with 100%, you might as well just turn in your voter registration card because that person does not exist. How can you completely agree? I have a really good friend. We laugh about it all the time. We are so similar in so many ways in terms of how we reared our children and this and that. We have so much in common. With things we like to cook, we share recipes all the time. But she absolutely positively loves butterscotch. I don't even like being on the planet with butterscotch. I wish I could just.
Oh, goodness.
And we just find that so amusing. It's like, how could we have this much in common and yet this one thing we are light years apart? And it's just, it's just funny to us. I'm certainly not going to stop speaking to her because she likes butterscotch.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I need to explain that to other people who said that they don't, fell out with somebody. Listen, just because they don't like butterscotch and you do, would you fall out with them? Like, it's really that simple. We have a difference of opinion.
Right. So she now knows that when she invites me over, don't serve butterscotch cookies for dessert. I mean, that's it. It is. I ask people, is it a matter of life or death? Is the earth going to spin off its axis? Figure out what's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And limit yourself. Like you said, take in the stuff that's going to add value. If it's social media, if it's a newspaper article, whatever, and then discard the rest of it because emotional wellness is so important. Your mental health is so important. And I don't think people really realize when they're watching the news all the time, when they're having these heated discussions all the time, staying in a stressed out state all the time, it's so not healthy. Ask me. I know I was in a stressed out state for a long time, and it hurt my relationships. It hurt my health. It's just not good. And until people can really realize, pull in what you need and disregard the rest. I think Maria is on here. What Granny used to say, it's something with I don't know. I think it was a pitchfork or something like that. But anyway, you rake in what you need and then you discard the rest. She had another way to say it. Maria, if you're still in here, put it in the chat for me. But basically what you said. And I think the world would be a much better place because you wouldn't be listening to all this poison all the time, and expecting to live a happy, healthy life. But all you're ingesting is the negative, is the frustration, the anxiety, and the fear. And that's just not good for you, your relationships, your children, nobody, your job, nobody.
Yeah, no, it is. I used to have a poster that was on my wall that read, "Anger is the wind that blows out the light of reason." And I don't always succeed, but I try to be reasonable
Mm-hmm.
as much as I possibly can. And so, but I realize I started telling the story about how my daughter got out without debt, and then I kind of we kind of did the stream of consciousness and moved on to something else. So, as I said, she was homeschooled for high school, but she did attend the local community college because there were certain things that I wasn't comfortable with myself teaching. And I also didn't want her out of the classroom environment for a full 4 years. So when she would turn 16, she started taking classes there and she really enjoyed it. Um, and it gave her, she took drafting and some other things that were more exposure to the world of architecture. But what happened was after she decided that she was going to change her major and she was going to do it in education, a couple of the colleges that she had applied to did not have did not have an education program, and the one that did, I was hoping, again, another part of the reason for her taking the classes at the community college was the architecture program is a grueling program. First of all, people should know it is. There are 4-year programs, but the BArch degree is a 5-year program, um, and it is a really grueling program. So I said, well, if she takes the prereqs at community college, then hopefully that those
They'll transfer.
yeah, those credits will transfer over, and so that freshman year her load will be a little bit lighter.
Right.
Yeah, just so that was, well, fast forward to when she's declaring to be a education major. One of the universities where she was accepted, they had a 5-year combined bachelor's master's program. So rather than taking 6 years to get a master's degree, it was only going to take her 5. And they got her transcript and we came in and I looked and I was like, am I reading this correctly? She had 36 credits because it got to the point where she was having such a good time. I let her take more classes than originally intended. She had 36 credits from the community college. The university that she selected accepted 33 of them. So that meant even though she was accepted as a freshman, she was starting as a sophomore because she had. I was amazed that they were that generous. I was hoping maybe they would take 9 or 12, 18 in my wildest dreams.
Wow, no, that is amazing.
Yeah, so
Because they want you to take as many classes at their university as they can get in.
Right. I was just floored. I was just I looked at it and I looked at her and I said, am I reading this right? Is this? And so what happened was she had a year off up front and she had a year off at the end because she did the 5-year program. So that was how she was able to get that all done at 22, was because, yeah, and then they were very generous with the scholarships, and then she got some outside local scholarships as well, and so that was how that. So again, I tell people I can't tell you that could be completely replicated, but it's certainly not impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's things that you did learn along the way, like we said in the beginning, that you can help guide someone else that's going along that same path, especially with all the changes. And since you are the one that's being on top of all of the changes that's taking place in education and you're, keeping your website to where people can get that information and you offer services, like that's a win-win combination.
Yeah, no, it is. Oh, and just let me say, in terms of financing education, one of the biggest mistakes I find people make, and I will be honest, I made it too. And that's why I said I take my experiences and things that I've learned and I incorporate it. Most people wait until their children are juniors or seniors in high school to start applying for scholarships. Don't do that. There are scholarships available starting in middle school. Technically, there are a couple even available in elementary school, but there are college scholarships available for middle school students. And I encourage people to start looking out for those. As a matter of fact, there's a scholarships for younger students on the Teshley Solutions website. It's a blog post, and I found that out from one of the students who participated in the tutoring program. She was a great writer. She was very passionate, both in poetry and prose, and she joined a lot of contests and she won them. She won quite a few of them, and then she did a few other more standard type
Mm-hmm.
scholarships, and she did those. So by the time she graduated, she had a pretty nice little chunk of change that she had accumulated. And then, of course, she was a very good student, so she did get the other scholarships that she applied for in junior and senior year. But before that even started, she had well into the five figures of money from participating in these writing competitions. But then there are others that are available that cover a wide array of interests and passions for students.
And I just want to say, if you don't apply, you're telling yourself no. Like, we count ourselves out instead of giving it a shot, saying, oh, I'm not going to get it. Oh, I'm not going to get it. And I've heard people say no one applied for their scholarship, so it's sitting there. And in some cases, you might be that only person and you get it because you applied. And
Right.
so don't count yourself out. And I want to encourage the parents to encourage the students, because they're the ones at the school. And sometimes the scholarships are not posted publicly. So you have to be, in contact with the counselor, in contact with the school in some cases, and find a reputable website to go to, because there's a lot out there that they're just trying to get your information. So make sure that you do your research and you apply, because the money is available, especially with the federal funding maybe being different. It's going to look different than the way that it is. You have to find that alternate way to fund school and your education.
Yeah, no, there are yeah, and I tell people to just certainly look local, because obviously national scholarships are going to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of applicants. But if you live in Michigan, there are scholarships that are only for Michigan or Iowa or New Jersey or California or wherever it is. And then there are scholarships in the county, there are scholarships in the town, and then there are scholarships that are specific to professions, for
Mm.
children of firefighters, for children of this, children who belong to, sometimes people forget they belong to a union. A lot of those unions have scholarships for.
Banks have scholarships, because I know my credit union will put up there apply because we're giving away a scholarship. So it's just so many ways, and it's all about getting connected with the people that can help you and doing your own research. Sometimes, everybody's not the best with the internet, but they can pay for services and get that knowledge that someone else has to help them navigate through this journey.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we're gonna hop over to commercial
Okay.
intermission, and then we will be right back. And when we come back, you can have the opportunity to say your final words to the audience, Also, if you would let us know if you could tell your younger Teresa self something, what would that be? And the sunshine golden nugget. So it's like, if you didn't get anything else from this sunshines, I want you to take this one golden nugget with you. And so we will be right back. Hang tight, my sunshine. Conversations with Celena. We'll be right back. Hey, sunshine. I be getting down in the chair, y'all. Let me get up. It's a different story. I be moving like an old person, but in the chair, I feel like I can get it. All right, Miss Teresa, I'm gonna give you the floor again. Is there any final words that you would like to share with the audience?
I would say that um, be open to change. Be open to trying something new. Be positive for your children. I don't want you to be dishonest. I mean, if they ask you straight out, do you like this? Don't say, yeah, I like it. But just because it doesn't appeal to you doesn't mean it may not appeal to them. So let them become themselves. When my daughter was younger, I do not eat cooked spinach. I love raw spinach. I will put it in salad. I will do, but I did prepare cooked spinach for her, and she still eats it to this day because I didn't want to pass on my judgment about cooked spinach, which is really not pleasant. Uh, but she loves it. She will eat raw spinach too, but her preference is cooked spinach. But that was only because I gave her the opportunity to make that decision.
Make that her own
I didn't want to pass that along. So, you know, with your children, be get them to be curious. If they say, "Well, do you like this?" and I say, "Well, what's your opinion on that? Have you tried it? Do you see?" Let them become, as they say, I think it's sometimes overused these days, but let them become their authentic self. You certainly have to guide them. You have to steer them away from danger. But when it comes to the personal things, let them be their own person.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had to come up with another word than authentic because we do use it a lot. Because we've been dealing with fake folks for so long. Authentic is refreshing. So to meet people who are authentic and transparent. And I know I've had some guests here that shared their testimony, and I was over here. My mouth was just like, because for them to have that courage and boldness to share some of the things that they shared on video, like live video that could be recorded and replayed 10, 15, 20 years from now, that took a lot of courage. And so I definitely use it over here because that's who I am becoming. Like, I'm tired of hiding in the dark, in the past. That just no longer going to dictate who I am today. I mean, it is what it is. So I have to accept my journey, but I
Right.
don't have to wallow in it my whole entire life.
So
Yeah.
true.
Yes, ma'am. So what would you tell your younger self?
I that would be continue to believe in yourself even when others don't. Even when those who you want to don't.
Mm, mm.
Continue to believe in yourself.
Oh, that's good. That is a good sunshine golden nugget. I love that. Now, was your first one, was that your answer for the oh, that was your oh my God.
My
That's
golden nugget?
your younger self. That's what you would tell your younger self.
Yes.
What you said in the beginning, I mean, that was so awesome. That sounded like the golden nugget. So I didn't want to ask you again, was that the golden nugget or was that just your final words? So that's what you would tell your younger self. And then what's the golden nugget? That was the golden nugget. I feel like that was both of them. That was so good to me. Because people, you be looking for people that you know and people that you grew up with to be there and to believe in you and to support you. And that doesn't be the case. So you do have to believe in you even when no one else is believing in you, your dream, your vision. You just have to keep on going.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to do okay, I'll do a second golden nugget because, as I said, one of our taglines is education is a journey. Let's take it together.
Mm-hmm.
And use that with your children because, things have changed. I think about the technology that was introduced when I was when I was a young child until, maybe I hit 20. And then I think about the technological changes from when my daughter was 6 and then turned 20. It's just overwhelming. So it's okay with your kids. You go on that education journey with them and say, let's learn about this together. Let's probe this together. Maybe you can switch it off, something that you're passionate about that you want to share with your child, and then let them share something that they're passionate about with you and probe it deeper together. Learn it together because yeah, education does not stop when you leave the brick and mortar building, whether it's a high school, a college, or whatever. Education should never end. For some people, it does end.
Oh yeah, they be so over it. It's like 12 years is enough, and then it's like 15 years is enough, and you just be like, oh Lord have mercy, I'm done with it. But if you just do one something a day, like read a little something every day or incorporate it in your life, it's just going to be so much better because you're going to eliminate some of that negativity and you're going to replace it with something positive, which you're learning something. And like you said, even if you don't use it today, you can use it down the line and it can help you. It could help prevent probably some of that stuff that people have going on, like dementia and Alzheimer's, because you're constantly using your brain and you're learning. And then even reduce depression and all this other stuff because you're working on you and you're not on social media getting caught up in a comparison trap. She's doing this and she's doing that, and you just sitting there scrolling, looking at them doing it instead of getting up and doing what you want to do, like what has been put in your heart, your purpose for your destiny.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so that's I agree with you totally on that. So it's thank you for this. This has been as much fun as I thought it was going to be.
Well, good. I'm glad. I want to make it laid back and relaxed, and people can come in and come out, pop in, pop out, and see what they can take away from it. Because what some people get something from the end, the middle, the beginning, but whatever speaks to you and resonates with you, we want you to take it and execute. Not just take the information, but take the information, share the video, and then execute, because that's when you're going to find more confidence. I mean, it goes back to that hands-on. When you get to doing hands-on work, you learn. When you get to doing hands-on for your business, your nonprofit, your growth, you don't have time for all of that other stuff. And so your life will be so much more fulfilling when you're working on you.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you. And we'll have to do this again if I'm ever over in New Jersey. Well, you be moving and living in a different city. So wherever you happen to be.
Now, I've been stationary for a while now.
Okay. Because I might have to come to your city and we coordinate some things. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, you hang on the line. I'm going to play the outro. Y'all, thank you so much for joining and hanging in there with us on today. We appreciate it. Go check out the website. The social media handles are on the bottom. There's the website once again. Please share it. Tell somebody else about it. how Miss Teresa can help them. So we love y'all. Go share a smile and spread some sunshine. Until next time, KISS. Keep it smiling, sunshine.
Have a great day, everyone.